say nothing is strong as an idea whose time has come, but there's a flip side to it. You may have a great idea, but if you are ahead of the curve, then chances of its acceptance or success are very limited. Perhaps you could even fail. There are numerous stories in corporate India of products or services failing because they were ahead of time. Let me give you an example. In the late 70s, a leading consumer electronics giant in the country decided to outsource the production of its popular product, a radio, to the small-scale sector as it had high labor costs. The moment the consumers came to know that this particular brand of radio was not manufactured at the company's factory, they raised a hue and cry as they felt cheated. The media went to town. With so much negative publicity and outcry, the company decided to put an end to this outsourcing practice. Clearly, this company in question was decades ahead of the curve. Then, nobody had heard the concept of outsourcing. Today, outsourcing of product, services and people is a way of life. BPO, KPO, RPO is a new lexicon. You manufacture product in country A, sell it in country B and manage the back-end operation from country C. This is the 21st century business model that has thumbs up from management gurus and stock market experts. Outsourcing is considered a smart business strategy today. One such smart company that in a sense was slightly ahead of the curve, but the changing environment in the country saw it flourishing, is WNS. WNS is the first business process outsourcing company to be set up in India way back in 1996 to manage the back-end operations of British Airways. Unlike most success stories where it is the vision of an entrepreneur, this one is different. It was the brainchild of a private equity player who managed to put a very good team of professional managers. And the rest is history. My colleague Veena Krishna, who put together this week's story, says that its success is all about timing. Take a look at the WNS story. It is different.
When British Airways flights began to make more landings into India in 1996, it never could have imagined that a small captive operation of 12 employees, set up to undertake its back-end operations, would become a 2,700 rupee crore company, having 22,000 employees, the number 2 player in its industry, and give birth to a sector that would be booming many years later, putting India on the global map. WNS Global Services, then known as World Network Services, is India's first pure-play business process outsourcing firm. Back then in 1996, the word BPO was non-existent and back-office operations was in its nascent stage. Jeremy Young of Warburg Pincus, the private equity investor who took over the company in 2003, takes us back to the year 2000 to tell us what he saw which no one else could see.
I developed a thesis around what you and I now call BPO, business process outsourcing. Back then the term didn't exist. What existed was back office outsourcing and the beginnings of offshore back office outsourcing. But I felt that there was an opportunity to focus on the back office side and use places such as India as the core delivery geography for those services. In December 2000, I approached the BA board and said that I thought that this would be an interesting platform of which to build something substantial. But there was a lot of disbelief at BA because they couldn't see how what was to them a cost center, which had too many people in it, could possibly be an opportunity for us. So there was a lot of dialogue where we had to walk them through how we think about investments, how we create companies, how we work with companies, and to convince them that they'd get an enhanced service as well as the possibility of real equity value creation if they worked alongside us to do that. That took many, many months of discussion. And then when we finally had convinced them of that, we then had to extract the business. But it wasn't a business, it wasn't independent, so we had to create something over, I think, 150 service level agreements between WNS and all of the different business units and customers within British Airways, which was very complex, very time consuming, and often quite political because it changed the nature of the relationship between what is now WNS and the BA customer. So it was a very long process. You needed a lot of patience.
In 2004, we'd just been through the enormous shock of 9/11. We were looking at the size and shape of British Airways as a company, and we thought, is this an activity that we should say is a core development? And WNS has and had been very successful in supporting our outsourced operations, but we felt there was value there that was not about core airlines. It was actually about enabling WNS to grow a successful and larger business in the overall business process outsourcing, serving other customers such as Norwich Union and insurance markets. And I think history shows that we were right, because WNS has grown. BA is still a significant customer.
In 7 years, from 1996 to 2003, WNS under British Airways had built up various back-end skills. It had grown to a 264.4 rupee crore company. Post the 2000 dot-com bust, companies were looking at avenues to cut costs, while the IT sector and venture capitalists were looking for the next big idea. That came in the form of BPO. Sulakshana Patankar. Today, the business unit head of the finance and accounting practice at WNS has witnessed the beginnings of that interesting period, joining as a British Airways employee in 1999.
We developed skills in revenue accounting, special message editing, special request and loyalty program. The skills were so diverse that we could really utilize it to other industries. Other companies started approaching us in that time also to help them process their complex areas. That is when British Airways and all of us realized the huge potential in the company.
2003. That's when all the action began, in WNS and in India. Warburg Pincus acquired a 100% stake from British Airways. The World Network Services became WNS Global Services. No sooner than Warburg Pincus acquired WNS, it chalked up ambitious growth plans for WNS, both organic and the acquisition route. It bought the UK-based Town & Country in 2003, entering the insurance-based automobile claims processing segment. Warburg brought in top-notch professionals to spread WNS's tentacles in the US market. Insurance and travel became the two pillars of the company's foundation. Between 2006 and 2008, WNS made 6 acquisitions across various sectors, the latest being the BPO unit of insurance giant Aviva in July 2008. WNS has a lot of firsts. In 2004, WNS became the first Indian third-party BPO firm to hit $100 million in revenues of 478 crore rupees. And in 2006, WNS was the first Indian pure-play BPO to be listed on the NYSE. Warburg Pincus cashed out divesting 51% stake and today holds 48.6% stake.
We listed on the New York Stock Exchange in July 2006, raised a little over $250 million, which for us at that time was a lot of money. We used about 100 million of that came to the company, about 150 went to the shareholders who sold some of their stock. We used a lot of that money down the years in making some very intelligent strategic acquisitions. Our objective always was to add to our domain capabilities, our process expertise, and sometimes also for geographic expansion. And we've used that, we grew the company tremendously from about 1,500 people in 2002. We crossed about 12,000 people in early 2008. And then of course we did the big deal where we took over the back office of Aviva. That's been a transformational sort of acquisition for WNS, catapulted us into a much bigger league.
Surely and steadily, WNS attracted the biggest of big clientele, spreading its tentacles all across the globe. It has a network of 22 global delivery centers in USA, UK, Romania, Switzerland, India, Sri Lanka and Philippines that responds to needs for language, cultural alignment, redundancy and 24/7 operations. In India alone, it has 11 offices spread all over the country. Today, WNS's largest clients on a net revenue basis include Aviva, Travelocity and Centrica. 5 clients account for 53% of WNS's revenue, most being in the banking, financial services and insurance or BFSI industry and the travel and leisure industry.